90% of fishing is heart and soul. You know, on this lake, you can catch fish not too far underneath the surface in the middle. Forage base here is smelt. So that is definitely one tip that I would have if you're really serious about fishing these lakes, is know the forage base, because that's going to tell you a lot. It's going to tell you a lot how fish feed. It's going to tell you a lot about what kind of fish, what size of fish. Know what species are in there. It's really easy to find out, and know what sources of forage they have. That's easy to find out as well. A little bit of research. Tip number 1. Okay, this is the setup we're going with. This first pass I'm going to be more or less targeting lake trout. Now, I really wouldn't ever need a leader, a steel leader for lake trout. It's really not an issue. There's a lot of big northerns in here. I don't really want to lose that fish or this lure. And I've got braid on there, and that braid is 20 pounds, something I also don't normally do, but that's pretty abrasion proof as well, so that would help. I could tie this lure directly to the braided line and be a little bit safer. Monofilament with any toothy fish like a northern, most likely if that tooth hits it, it's gone. So that's why you need some sort of steel leader, something I rarely ever use. But since we're going to target a few bigger fish and probably even really target some of those northerns, I'm going to put that on to start. But right now, we're going to see if we can get ourselves a lake trout with a big lure. So if we get a fish, it's probably going to be pretty big. So let's go. Well, I'm not quite sure about the big rig here, but it seemed to work well. I'm going to just kind of drift around and jig in about 20 feet of water. Give that a few minutes. I'm still going to want to slow my drift down a little bit. So I like to just use my paddle to slow me down as much as I can. And then I just try to keep my bait sort of just off the bottom. There's a real skill in it. And that's generally how we fish. Close to the bottom. Tip number 1 was know the forage base in the lake. Tip number 2 is wind is your friend. Really big factor in fishing, especially walleye fishing and especially these clear lakes. Wind is your friend. Yeah. Alright, I'm trolling to a known spot. I got a little smaller deep diving crankbait on, and I'm trolling the deep side of this break down to this point where it's a little more about rocky flat. I'm going to fish the evening down there. See if I can get something trolling on my way to my standard walleye rig. A 1/4 ounce jig with, I think that's a 3-inch paddle tail. I like the reds, the sort of plums and purples. Black jig heads are nice. White jig heads. Chartreuse is always good. Those would be the 3 colors I'd go with. Mix up your jig body colors. That can be important, so I do like to switch that around, and make sure you have different size jigs, because depending on conditions, depth you're going to be fishing. In my opinion, you always want to go with the smallest possible rig you can get by with, and that is line, jig, baits, whatever. It's turning out to be a pretty stellar evening. I think it's beautiful. It's been a beautiful day today. Now, if you can find some structure, whether it be a point, or right now I'm a little bit of a rocky flat, so away from the shore it goes out a little bit, 10 feet of water, and then it drops off. What I'll do is just try to work the top of the drop off, or right on the edge of the drop off, one side or the other, and just float my way around. I'm watching the depth finder, standing at about 10 to 14 feet. That's right where the drop off is, and it's a sharp break. And it's getting to be prime time, so it's probably 6:37. I'll fish till dark, and if I don't catch anything on this, what I call a rocky flats, I'm most likely going to go to the other end of the lake, the spawning side of the lake, and try over there tomorrow. All right, let's continue with the lesson. Probably the third thing that really comes to mind when canoe fishing is boat control. It's everything. You have to be able to figure out a way to keep your boat on the depth you want to be on, because you're walleye fishing. It's pretty specific depth wise. You really want to cover area. You want to be as specific as you can, especially if you find some fish. There's a lot of back paddling, just trying to use the wind to your advantage, doing casting when you need to cast if it's calm enough. Anyway, we're fishing in the boundary waters, hoping for a big one. Really, right now, I'm just hoping for a walleye. But really, you know, I'm just right now just really enjoying the day. It's since I was just in here, I'm in pretty good shape for it. It's an easy day, perfect day. Rained a little bit, got a little wet, but thankfully didn't. I was able to dry off, stay warm, put some warm socks on, put a layer on. Had that hot meal. I'm golden. Golden. Speaking of gold, come on, babies, let's go. God, I'm just perfect here in like 11 feet of water. Might be a little early for that depth. It might be a little early in the year for these fish to be here. And it's a big weather change, so that could have a major effect. We'll find out. Tip number 4, jig presentation. So here the wind's dying down a little bit, but we do have, and that was the other thing, we do have the wind blowing into the shore I'm fishing. I've got good boat control. I'm able to just slide across this flat, 10 feet of water. I'm not moving real fast. It'd be nice to move maybe a little faster or not have to work so hard. I know my jig's down there because I can feel it hit the bottom, but you want to be careful. There's just nothing but boulders down there, so you get your jig stuck in a crevice and then it's a pain. Know where your jig is. It's pretty much vertical for me right now, but I'm keeping it moving, trying to hop it pretty quick. It should be enough, boundary waters walleye, to take it, I would think. So that's all you need to do. Just keep it out of the rocks and keep it in the strike zone, keep it moving. So that's 4 tips. Know your lake. The wind is your friend. Boat control is really everything. And your jig presentation. Keep it out of the rocks, but give it to the fish. This lake can be tough, but you can be rewarded. You can really be rewarded on this lake with some real giants. Okay, the wind's starting to die down a little bit at times, and I might be more effectively able to cast and cover more ground. So I know I'm right on the break right now, and I have a pretty good idea of which direction that break goes. So I can cast along the break, let it sink to the bottom, and just swim it in. So you know when your jig hits the bottom by the way your line acts. So watch your line, you know it hits the bottom, it goes slack, and rod tip high, and just swim it in a swimming motion. And make sure you stay down there close enough without being too close. So that is the trick in fishing these boulders. This style of fishing anyway. Oh, I think that's a walleye. Shit, I thought it was just gonna be a bass, but that's a nice eye. Alright, come on, baby. Oh, it's a bass, darn it. Big bass. Big bass. Alright, it's fish. Most likely it for the lesson. I'm probably going to cast around a little more, but it's getting late and I'm getting tired. But I mean, full day, up at 3:30, you know, got a fair amount of fishing in, and I'm pretty deep in the boundary waters. That's all it takes. A little bit of gumption, and it really isn't that hard, as I always say. Right, it's a little breezy out here. I'm going to go to the other end of the lake pretty much against the wind. About 1.5 miles. Let's get rolling. Let's get some fish today. The wind seems pretty manageable. I trolled that flat. I'm going to go out a little bit further and fish a little bigger bait. I don't have a big variety of these baits. I don't know. If they're feeding, they'll probably hit it. If they see it, this lure will dive down probably 15 plus, I would guess. I took the steel leader off and I just have a snap swivel on there. I can barely stand that steel leader. 30 feet of water, trolling. Staying down. I think it's a big laker. Barely hooked. Barely hooked, barely hooked. We'll get you in, buddy. We'll get you in. We'll get you in. Come on, buddy. Just... It's alright, buddy. It's alright. Okay. Let's get the hooks out of this fish. Quick hook release. That's a nice looking fish. I don't even want to take quite the time to measure him, but he's 24 probably. Let's try to get him in the water quick. Gone. All right. Nice fish. Fish on the troll. Bass. It's a nice one though. Fighting harder than that lake trout we just had on. Big one. Nice. Okay, I'm getting to the far end of the lake. Trolled my way down here. Wasn't too bad. I'm going to try to jig this point that's behind me. It jets out a bit. So there's a lot of structure. So what structure is just means there's a lot of change in depth. Drop off of that point that extends out. So I'm going to try to troll on top in 10 feet of water and on the edges down 18 to 20 feet of water. So I'll give it a little bit of a try before I head back into the far end of the bay, where I'm really definitely hoping to catch something. However, really enjoying what we got going on here, so it's all good to me. Alright, jigging this point in the wind. Fighting the wind a little bit, but that's kind of one thing that I guess if I can convey or teach or demonstrate is, you know, fishing in the wind is not all that difficult. I'm just trying to keep my eye on the depth finder and know my depth so I don't get hung up and I'm in the right spot. And I'm just trying to keep my canoe as sort of as steady as I can right now. And that's just back trolling, keeping the stern or the back faced into the wind. And all I have to do is just kind of lightly paddle backwards. I just want to make sure that I'm in 11 feet right now. Like a few feet I'll slip into 18 feet. I want to know when that is so I can get my bait down a little bit lower. And when I come up on 11 feet, I want to make sure I'm above the rocks. If you start running in the wind, it's very difficult to keep your jig where you need to. Then you need a heavier jig and a whole different game plan. I don't know, these fish have to be somewhere. There's some nice fish in here. Okay, paddled over to this pretty big beaver dam. And there's a flat right out front, and it's been pretty much a bass on every cast. It's fishing this beaver dam, which is always a good idea to try. The bass were in there, a few, not every cast. I was thinking, well, I should come back here right at dark, and I bet you the walleyes would be in there. All right, you got a small pike. Boy, aggressive. I can't imagine what a big one would feel like. I'm just kind of cranking this heavy jig rig across this beaver dam area, and these small northern are attacking it. Another little pike. God, these things are ferocious. Nice to see some small pike in here. Lots of small pike, that's good. Darn it, first walleye of the day, darn it. All right, that's good. Small one. All right, let's give that one another pass. Just jigging this point right on top. All right, here we go. It's a little more what we're looking for. Get this one in, yes. Yep, that's a dandy. That's what I'm looking for. 23, I can keep 1 over 20. So I'm gonna keep this one. All right, took all day. This one's gonna be too big to keep. Let's see what we got here. Whoa. Our fish of the day here, let's get it in. Walleye, nice one, nice one, nice one. Big fish. Big fish. Whoa, baby, look at that sucker. That baby. Let's get it in the water. Didn't have to fight it very long. 28 incher. All right. Good fish. Wow, what a fish. Okay, well that's the fish we were working for today. Took a while, but we got what we were after. 28-inch walleye. 6-pound test on just a green sparkly paddle tail and a 1/4 ounce jig head on top of this flat. So he's about 12 feet of waterish. Let's try to get another one. Great day of fishing. Beautiful night. Got the lake to ourselves.